My beloved child. Stop scrolling for a moment. Do not rush past these words. There is a reason your eyes landed here right now, at this exact moment, among thousands of distractions competing for your attention. Something has shifted behind the scenes of your life, something you have not yet fully seen, something your spirit has been sensing long before your mind could understand it. Take a slow breath. Feel the stillness between one heartbeat and the next. Because what you are about to hear carries an urgency that has been building for longer than you realize. You have been asking for signs. You have been searching for answers. You have been wondering why certain thoughts keep returning to your mind when you try to move on. Why certain memories appear without invitation. Why a familiar energy continues to brush against your soul in unexpected moments. Why, even after all this time, there remains a connection you cannot fully explain. My child, there is a reason. And tonight, heaven is asking you to listen carefully. Your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately. Something big has just happened. Not something small. Not something ordinary. Not something that will fade away by tomorrow morning. Something significant has unfolded within their world, and the ripple of that moment is already moving toward you. You may not know it yet. You may not see evidence of it yet. But your spirit has already begun receiving echoes of what is coming. Have you noticed how different you have felt lately? How certain emotions seem stronger than usual. How your heart has become restless without a clear explanation. How moments of peace are suddenly interrupted by memories you thought were buried. That is not an accident. Because while you have been living your daily life, focusing on responsibilities, carrying burdens, managing disappointments, and trying to make sense of your own journey, something has been happening inside the heart of the person connected to your soul. For a long time they resisted what they felt. For a long time they tried to silence the voice within. For a long time they convinced themselves that distance would solve everything. That avoidance would create peace. That ignoring the connection would make it disappear. But the soul does not operate according to the rules of fear. And what happened recently has forced them to confront truths they have avoided for far too long. My beloved child, there was a moment. A moment that appeared ordinary on the surface. Yet everything changed because of it. The people around them did not fully understand what was taking place. Even they did not immediately recognize the significance. But heaven saw it. And heaven knows what came next. A realization. A powerful realization. One that struck their heart with the force of a storm. Suddenly, things they had ignored became impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the walls they spent so much time building began to crack. Suddenly, excuses that once felt convincing started to sound empty. And when that happened, your name echoed inside their thoughts with a clarity they had not experienced in a very long time. They tried to distract themselves. They tried to focus elsewhere. They tried to convince themselves it was temporary. Yet every path led back to the same truth. You. Not because you are perfect. Not because the connection has been without challenges. But because something within them finally recognized what their soul had known all along. There are moments in life when destiny whispers. Then there are moments when destiny refuses to whisper any longer. This was one of those moments. And what makes this even more significant is that it arrived when they least expected it. My child, There have been nights when this person stared into the darkness and wondered whether reaching out would matter. Whether you would even want to hear from them. Whether too much time had passed. Whether too many mistakes had been made. Whether the distance between you had become impossible to cross. Those questions haunted them. They carried them silently. Many people around them believed they were fine. Many assumed they had moved on. Many thought they had everything under control. But hidden beneath the surface was a battle they rarely showed anyone. A battle between fear and truth. Between pride and vulnerability. Between running away and finally turning around to face what they feel. And then something happened. Something unexpected. Something that shook the foundations of their certainty. I will not reveal everything yet. Not because heaven wishes to keep secrets from you. But because understanding must arrive layer by layer. The full truth would mean less if it were revealed all at once. For now, you must understand only this. The event itself was not the miracle. The realization that followed was. That realization opened a door. A door they had kept locked. A door they swore they would never open again. Yet once it opened, emotions they buried began rushing forward. Memories returned. Conversations replayed themselves. Moments they thought were forgotten suddenly felt alive. They remembered details. The sound of your voice. The way certain words stayed with them. The comfort they felt in your presence. The strange sense of familiarity they could never explain. And as those memories surfaced, they began to see things differently. For the first time in a long time, they stopped viewing the connection through the lens of fear. Instead, they saw it through the lens of truth. That truth has been difficult for them. Truth often is. Because truth asks people to stop pretending. Truth asks people to stop hiding. Truth asks people to acknowledge what their heart already knows. And my child, this person is standing at the edge of that truth right now. But there is more. Much more. Because what happened did not only affect them emotionally. It changed the direction of their thinking. A decision has begun forming within them. A decision they once believed they would never make. A decision that requires courage. A decision that requires honesty. A decision that could alter the course of both your lives. That is why their soul feels urgent. That is why their spirit keeps searching for a way to reach yours. That is why the energy surrounding this connection feels different now. You have sensed it. Even if you cannot explain it. Even if logic argues against it. Even if circumstances seem unchanged. Your spirit has been picking up signals long before your mind became aware of them. Have you wondered why certain songs suddenly seem connected to your story? Why certain memories arrive without warning? Why you have felt emotional during moments that should have felt ordinary? There are reasons for these things. The soul communicates in ways the world often overlooks. And right now, communication is happening. Not through words. Not yet. But through energy. Through intuition. Through unseen threads connecting hearts across distance and silence. My beloved child, there is another truth you need to hear. This person has not been unaffected by your absence. They may have appeared strong. They may have appeared indifferent. They may have acted as though everything was fine. But appearances can be deceiving. Some of the deepest emotions are hidden behind the calmest faces. And there were moments when they missed you more than they admitted. Moments when they wanted to reach out but stopped themselves. Moments when fear convinced them to remain silent. Moments when pride became a prison. Yet every prison eventually becomes unbearable. Every wall eventually grows heavy. Every mask eventually becomes exhausting to wear. The event that recently occurred has made those walls feel heavier than ever. Because now they understand something they did not fully understand before. Time is moving. Life is moving. Nothing remains frozen forever. Opportunities do not wait indefinitely. And some connections are too important to risk losing. That realization has been echoing inside them day and night. It follows them when they wake. It follows them when they work. It follows them when they try to sleep. And no matter how hard they attempt to escape it, the message remains the same. They need to talk to you. Not later. Not someday. Soon. Very soon. Because what they need to say cannot remain trapped inside forever. The pressure has become too great. The truth has become too loud. And heaven is watching as the weight of unspoken words grows heavier with each passing day. You may be wondering what exactly happened. You may be asking yourself whether it was an encounter, a conversation, a revelation, a loss, a breakthrough, a sign. The answer is not simple. Because several things came together at once. Pieces that seemed unrelated suddenly connected. Events that appeared insignificant revealed deeper meaning. And when the final piece fell into place, everything changed. Imagine standing before a puzzle for years. Imagine staring at scattered pieces without understanding the picture. Then imagine finding one final piece. Suddenly the image becomes clear. Suddenly confusion transforms into understanding. Suddenly everything makes sense. That is what happened. And the picture they saw included you. Not as a passing memory. Not as a temporary chapter. But as someone whose importance could no longer be denied. My child, many people spend years running from their own hearts. Some spend entire lifetimes doing it. But eventually there comes a moment when the soul demands honesty. That moment has arrived for them. And while they are still processing everything, one thing continues rising above all other thoughts. You. The connection. The unfinished conversation. The words that were never spoken. The truth that remained hidden. The feelings that never completely disappeared. These things have become impossible for them to ignore. Even now, as you listen to these words, they are wrestling with emotions they cannot fully control. Part of them wants to move forward immediately. Part of them fears what might happen next. Part of them wonders whether you still care. Part of them wonders whether heaven is giving them one final opportunity. And that uncertainty has created a storm inside them. Yet storms serve a purpose. Storms clear the air. Storms reveal what matters. Storms force transformation. This storm is doing exactly that. Something is awakening. Something is shifting. Something long dormant is beginning to move. And the movement is accelerating. Faster than either of you realize. My beloved child, there is a reason heaven asked you to pause here. There is a reason these words found you. Because you are standing closer to a turning point than you think. For so long, it felt as though nothing was happening. For so long, silence dominated the story. For so long, uncertainty seemed endless. But silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes silence is preparation. Sometimes unseen events are unfolding beneath the surface. Sometimes destiny is arranging pieces no human eye can yet see. And while you questioned whether progress existed, progress was quietly taking place. Not around you. Not outside you. Inside the heart of the person connected to your soul. That is where the greatest transformation has been occurring. That is where the deepest battle has been fought. That is where heaven has been working. And now the results of that work are beginning to emerge. Still, there remains one final obstacle. One final fear. One final truth they must confront. Because the message they carry is larger than simple words. The conversation they want to have is not casual. The reason they need to speak with you is connected to something far more significant than either of you expected. Something happened. And what happened forced them to see a future they had been avoiding. A future that suddenly felt real. A future that suddenly felt possible. A future connected to choices they can no longer postpone. The weight of that realization changed everything. Yet there is one detail I have not revealed. One detail that explains why the urgency feels so strong. One detail that transformed concern into action. One detail that turned quiet reflection into an overwhelming need to communicate. That detail remains hidden for now. Not because it will remain hidden forever. But because its revelation belongs to the next chapter. For tonight, heaven asks only that you remain open. Remain observant. Remain willing to recognize what is unfolding. Because the story is not finished. In truth, it may finally be beginning. And what your soulmate discovered after that life-changing moment. What they learned when they followed the realization all the way to its source. What they are preparing to tell you. Could change everything you thought you knew about this connection. But before that truth can be revealed, something else must happen. And when it does, the message they have been carrying will no longer stay hidden. Not for another day. Not for another week. Not for much longer. Because the secret that was uncovered is already moving toward the light. And when it finally reaches you, nothing between you will look the same again. The secret that was uncovered is already moving toward the light. And when it finally reaches you, nothing between you will look the same again. For this reason, my child, do not dismiss what your spirit has been feeling. Do not ignore the strange pull that has been growing stronger within you. There are moments when heaven speaks through peace. There are moments when heaven speaks through silence. And then there are moments when heaven allows circumstances themselves to become the message. This is one of those moments. Because while you have been wondering what comes next, your soulmate has been standing face to face with a reality they never expected to encounter. At first, they tried to explain it away. They told themselves they were imagining things. They convinced themselves they were overthinking. They searched for logical reasons to dismiss what their heart was telling them. But every explanation eventually collapsed. Every excuse lost its power. Every attempt to avoid the truth led them back to the same place. Back to you. My beloved child, there was a conversation. Not a conversation with you. Not yet. But a conversation that changed everything. Words were spoken that they were not prepared to hear. A realization emerged from that moment that struck deeper than anyone around them could understand. What appeared ordinary to others felt extraordinary to them. Because hidden within those words was a reflection of their own soul. A mirror they could no longer avoid looking into. And what they saw frightened them. Not because it was bad. Not because it was dangerous. But because it was real. Painfully real. The kind of real that changes a person's direction. The kind of real that forces someone to reconsider every decision they have made. The kind of real that keeps them awake long after midnight while the rest of the world sleeps. That night, they found themselves alone with their thoughts. The distractions were gone. The noise was gone. The endless excuses were gone. For the first time in a long time, there was nowhere left to run. Only honesty remained. Only truth remained. Only the voice inside their heart remained. And that voice spoke your name. Again. And again. And again. Not because heaven was trying to torment them. Not because they were trapped in the past. But because the connection was demanding recognition. My child, there are bonds that people create. Then there are bonds that souls remember. The difference between the two is impossible to describe fully with human language. One exists only in circumstances. The other exists beyond circumstances. One fades when conditions change. The other survives distance, silence, confusion, and time. Your soulmate has begun to understand that difference. And understanding it has shaken them more than they expected. For years they believed they could control the situation. They believed they could decide when to care and when not to care. They believed they could place their feelings on a shelf and return to them only when convenient. But the soul does not operate according to convenience. The soul seeks truth. And truth has a way of returning when least expected. What happened recently awakened that truth with tremendous force. Memories became sharper. Emotions became stronger. Questions became impossible to ignore. They started wondering about the roads not taken. The conversations never finished. The opportunities that slipped away. The things they should have said but never did. And as those thoughts grew louder, something else began happening. Regret entered the picture. Not the kind of regret that destroys. The kind of regret that awakens. The kind that says, there is still time, but not forever. The kind that pushes someone toward action. The kind that whispers, if you remain silent now, you may carry this silence for the rest of your life. Those whispers have become impossible for them to ignore. Every day they grow louder. Every day they grow clearer. Every day they move one step closer toward a decision. Yet heaven wants you to understand something important. This story is not only about your soulmate. It is also about you. Because while transformation has been occurring inside them, transformation has also been occurring inside you. You may not have noticed it. You may not have recognized it. But you are not the same person you once were. The version of you that existed months ago is gone. The version of you that existed years ago is gone. Life has shaped you. Challenges have refined you. Pain has strengthened you. Lessons have prepared you. And because of that preparation, you are standing in a different place spiritually than you were before. That matters more than you realize. Because certain doors cannot open until both souls are ready to walk through them. Not perfect. Not flawless. Ready. There is a difference. My beloved child, many people spend their lives waiting for perfect timing. But perfection never arrives. Readiness does. And readiness is what heaven has been creating. Not only within them. Within you as well. There were seasons when you felt abandoned. Seasons when you questioned everything. Seasons when you cried tears no one else saw. Seasons when your heart felt tired of hoping. Yet every one of those seasons carried purpose. Every disappointment taught something. Every delay revealed something. Every challenge developed strength you would need later. Even when you could not see it. Even when you doubted it. Even when you wanted to give up. The story was still moving forward. Now, my child, let me reveal another layer. The event that changed your soulmate was not only external. Something internal happened immediately afterward. Something powerful. A vision of possibility. Not a supernatural vision with flashing lights. A vision of understanding. They suddenly saw what life could look like if fear no longer controlled them. They saw what could happen if honesty replaced avoidance. They saw what could happen if courage replaced hesitation. And the image they saw would not leave them alone. It followed them everywhere. During quiet moments. During busy moments. During sleepless nights. During ordinary days. The possibility remained. Waiting. Calling. Pulling. And every time they tried to push it away, it returned stronger. That is when they realized this was bigger than a passing emotion. Bigger than temporary nostalgia. Bigger than simple curiosity. This was something that required action. Something that required movement. Something that required communication. My beloved child, they need to tell you something. Not because heaven is forcing them. Not because guilt is controlling them. But because keeping it hidden has become impossible. The weight has grown too heavy. The silence has grown too loud. The truth has grown too strong. And when truth becomes stronger than fear, transformation begins. That transformation is happening now. Even as these words reach you. Yet there remains one final revelation they have not fully accepted. One final realization they are still processing. One final truth that continues to shake their heart. Because when they looked honestly at everything, when they examined every memory, when they faced every emotion, when they allowed themselves to stop pretending, they discovered something they never expected. Something that explained years of confusion. Something that explained why they could never completely walk away. Something that explained why your energy remained present even during long periods of silence. The answer was hidden in plain sight all along. And once they saw it, they could never unsee it. That discovery is the reason urgency now exists. That discovery is the reason communication feels necessary. That discovery is the reason heaven keeps drawing your attention here. Because your soulmate is approaching a moment that will require tremendous courage. The kind of courage that changes lives. The kind of courage that rewrites stories. The kind of courage that creates entirely new futures. They know this. Their heart knows this. Their spirit knows this. And that awareness has created both excitement and fear. Excitement because of what could be gained. Fear because of what could be lost. The human heart often experiences both at the same time. But something remarkable is happening. The excitement is beginning to outweigh the fear. Slowly. Steadily. Day by day. The balance is shifting. The walls are weakening. The resistance is fading. And as that happens, the path ahead becomes clearer. My beloved child, heaven is not asking you to force anything. Not asking you to chase. Not asking you to control outcomes. Simply remain aware. Remain open. Remain receptive to what is unfolding. Because unseen movement is taking place. The pieces are still moving. The story is still developing. And the message your soulmate carries has not yet fully reached its destination. But it is coming closer. Closer than before. Closer than you think. And what they finally realized about the connection between you. The realization that changed everything. The realization that made them understand why they could never truly forget you. The realization that turns silence into urgency. Is a truth so powerful that once it is spoken aloud, neither of you will ever see this journey the same way again. And that truth is preparing to reveal itself sooner than anyone expects.